Well, let's recap again all of the latest developments we've been hearing out of Israel and the occupied territories. The expected exchange of a second group of Israeli captives and Palestinian prisoners has apparently been delayed. The military wing of Hamas says the exchange won't happen until Israel adheres to the ceasefire agreement reached between the two sides and allows aid trucks to enter northern Gaza. Marwan Bishara is Al Jazeera's senior political analyst and joins me again here in the studio. Marwan, these are incredibly sensitive moments, aren't they? We've all been on the lookout for the potential stumbling blocks, the tension points in this complex choreography. Now, potentially something is afoot, a delay in the handover of captives. We thought it was underway. Hamas now saying, no, we're holding on to them because Israel hasn't adhered to the terms of the deal in sending aid to northern Gaza. What is happening at the moment behind the scenes to try and resolve this? How are they even contacting each other? How are they even talking about this?
Well, my understanding is that the Qataris now are directly involved in what is going on, and probably not just here, it's also over there. But also, there's clear violations, apparently, of the agreement. And I think one of the things I've seen, which I think probably would invoke or provoke Hamas into taking such a decision, and that is that the aid is not reaching northern Gaza. I mean, the fact that this whole entire enterprise, I'm talking about the deal, was made in order to release few prisoners in the West Bank and Jerusalem, that's a bit of a thin one, right? Considering that the entire West Bank is held hostage to Israel, and that it just held, arrested, imprisoned some 3,000 Palestinians, right? So the issue for Hamas in Gaza is about the humanitarian aid. And they agreed on to 300 trucks a day. But clearly something is happening with that that's not well, especially the idea of that aid reaching those who need it most in the north. Now, why are there a lot of people still, or some people still in the north? I've seen one image today that, for me, gave me the clear answer. Young man, Band-Aids all over, but walking around with tubes out of him, with someone carrying the whatever it is that they do for whatever reason, and walking from the north to the south, because there are no ambulances to take him. I can imagine that there are countless number of sick people, old people, and other kinds of people who just cannot make it to the south. Those people are in bad need of anything from drinking water to food.
Well, Mads Gilbert, we just heard him there, talked about the needs in the north. He said there is not a single remaining functioning medical facility. 500,000 people there, many of them in extreme need, patients still stuck in those non-functioning hospitals, and no aid reaching them.
Absolutely, and one wonders about the functionality of those hospitals moving forward, because my understanding is that, contrary to the images that we've seen the Israelis presumably bringing new equipment that apparently the hospital didn't need at the time, 27th of October. Now we hear Palestinian reports about the Israeli military ransacking the hospitals. I mean, clearly the message here, Jonah, is that the Israelis don't want to leave anything functional. They want to destroy the entire civic structure in northern Gaza, perhaps later southern Gaza, in order to make it uninhabitable, unlivable. They just want to make sure that people simply will not be able to bear living anymore in the north. So when we talk about collective punishment as a war crime, when we talk about collective punishment as genocide, when we talk about the unraveling genocide, that's what we mean. Starving people, rendering people unable even to drink water. And we just saw the reports about diarrhea. Now we're talking about tens of thousands of any such cases. That's just incredulous. The idea that Israel could, with such impunity, under the cover of the deal, to be able to continue to carry arrests in the West Bank, to continue to starve people in Gaza, right? That's certainly a violation of some sort. It's first and foremost, for me, as an analyst, it's a violation of basic human decency, let alone violation of international law, war crime, collective punishment, and so on and so forth. And it's certainly a violation of the deal if the deal is to let aid into Gaza.
Marwan, it was striking listening to an interview conducted earlier by Nida Ibrahim at the outside Offa prison, where a gentleman described the ceasefire deal as a victory for the Palestinian resistance. We've heard similar sentiments from the Israeli side, who want to portray this ceasefire deal as their victory. They have subdued Gaza. They have brought Hamas to heel and forced them to release some captives. Both sides claiming victory. You talked about the point of this ceasefire deal. What are the interests of both sides in preserving this ceasefire?
You know, it's interesting that you say both sides, and we need to dissect that. What do we mean by both sides, right? Because clearly the interests of the captives is not anymore the interest of the Netanyahu government. In fact, it wasn't from the very beginning. We know for a fact that Hamas did consider those captives, at least the hostage, the civilian amongst them, that they were guests, and they wanted to get rid of them as soon as possible. And so Israel did not need to go through 40 plus days of warfare, of war crimes, in order to get those released. Because Hamas wanted to get them released for minimum requirements and return. What the Hamas will insist on huge return will be the release of the soldiers. That's a whole other game. But the release of foreigners and Thai workers and old people and young people, Hamas wanted to do that from the beginning. So Israel's claim that it's only under the pressure of war that Hamas wanted to release that, that's humbug. Two, I think Hamas can declare political achievement in this deal because it proved to the world, one, that it's still capable after 50 days of war crimes to have a command over its militants, be able to ensure the safety and the well-being of the hostages, the captives. And I was just reading, this is probably important for our viewers around the world who don't read Hebrew. I was just reading a Hebrew website, Wallah, in Israel, the main website in Hebrew in Israel, reporting about the relatives of the released hostages, captives from Israel, and those are relaying what their family members who were held by Hamas are saying. And their testimony is that those captives were very well treated throughout their almost 50 days of captivity. With the exception of the very few hours until they were brought into Gaza, later on it seems like they were actually treated like guests. And the entire Israeli Hasbara, the entire Israeli public relation deception, from the decapitation of babies through the evil that's going to befall over the captives, that's all is proving once again to be just that, propaganda, and it is totally untrue. So in a sense, Hamas was able to reveal certain things and was able to withstand, steadfast, vis-a-vis the Israeli aggression. But the people of Gaza paid a huge price for this. Hamas might want to declare temporary victory, but no, the people of Gaza are not victorious today. The people of Gaza were not party to this necessarily. The people of Gaza are innocent, unlike what the Israeli president says.
Very hard to see what Hamas does with any political capital it may gain in any of this. We can talk about that later, perhaps. Yeah. Thanks, Marwan.